thank you for joining us this evening for our Becoming a Solicitor webinar. So this is going to be focusing on navigating the SQE from abroad. The session will be recorded and I will be sending over the slides and the recordings hopefully to everyone tomorrow who has registered for the event. Closed captions have been enabled as well so that you can access those. And I've already noted questions that have been submitted on the registration forms, and so we'll be trying to cover all of these during the session this evening. There is a lot to try and cover. There is a lot that's involved with the SQE. So that we have got some further events coming up that are more focused on each specific course that we offer. So if we can't go into things too much in detail this evening, then we will, of course, invite you along to those as well. And please do ask any questions. You can pop that into the chats. Sort of from myself then. I'm Nicola Gorge. I'm the student recruitment manager here at the College of Legal Practice. So if you have any questions about our courses and around studying for the SQE, then it will be either myself or another member of the student recruitment team that would answer your calls if you call us up or if you email us as well. We would be assisting you with that. I'm also joined by Alex this evening as well, who is a newly qualified solicitor and has also recently studied for the SQE with us as part of an LLM. And congratulations again, Alex. Obviously, you've just recently been awarded a distinction in that. Alex, do you want to introduce yourself and sort of explain about your background and how you've come into kind of the SQE and how you've got your and what you're working as now, really?
Yes, thank you, Nicola. My story started with corporate job. So first I decided as a student still back in Poland when I was doing my undergrads, I decided to work because always I was looking for practical skills and studying wasn't, I would say I wouldn't say good enough, but it wasn't enough for me. So maybe I don't advise everyone to do it, but I was a full-time student back in Poland and I was also working full-time. So I started working for one law firm, then I moved to another one. Then I decided to switch a bit after graduating in Poland. And I gained some experience as judicial assistant, which is helping me even currently in my litigation job. Then the decision to move to the UK simply because I wanted to turn back and go back into more corporate or the client representation. Since I graduated already in Poland, the quickest way was not to start all over, but to do a GDL. So I graduated, I finished my GDL, and then, of course, tough question. And I think some of you might be thinking the same thing. Okay, training contract, or what's the next step? But training contract, of course, LPC. I know that many law firms are switching right now to SQ as well. So to me, really, the decision was more of a practical, uh, practical character, since I really wanted to not prolong the journey already, because I've already been working on my qualifications for 3 years, including studies in Poland. And yeah, College of Legal Practice simply because of, I think Nicola will just take you through everything that the college got to offer. Since I was working already, and again, full-time job and full-time preparation, again, not for everyone. Yeah, so in a nutshell, that's about me. And currently, yes, after qualifications, I joined a medium-sized international law firm and I'm working in commercial litigation.
Brilliant. Thanks, Alex. And we'll obviously be hearing more from you sort of throughout about your experiences and how you've got on. Lovely. Okay. So in brief, then, what we'll cover this evening is as I said, I'll just be giving an overview of the SQE qualification route and what to expect in the SQE 1 and 2 assessments. Sorry, I'm just waiting for the slide to move over. And then, as I say, if we're not able to go into things fully in depth this evening, we'll try and answer as many questions as we can. But it may be that we come back to you or signpost you to one of our other events as well, just to speak even more in depth about different areas. So, just to give you an introduction of the College of Legal Practice, then, if you don't know much about us already, we are a fully online postgraduate law school and we're built for delivering our courses online. We specialise in SQE preparation as well. We don't have any physical campuses, so you won't have a need to actually attend any facilities with us, so you can actually study from wherever you are currently based. Our parent company is the College of Law, who are the leaders in legal education in Australia. And so we're very experienced in delivering digital learning. We're all about accessible and affordable legal education, which comes from our group's not-for-profit ethos. Obviously, traditionally, law is known for being a profession with like many barriers to entry. So we do our bit to try and eliminate that by offering courses at a more affordable price. You can see there as well that we've got a number of logos on the screen. This is of law firms that we work with and support providing SQE training for their employees. But also we work with a number of UK universities as well, whereby we provide the SQE element of their master's programmes. So to move on then, this is to show you exactly what is involved in the SQE route to qualify then. So basically those four elements there are what are required to qualify as a solicitor in England and Wales through the SQE route. So first of all, you'll see on there that you need to have a degree or an equivalent level 6 qualification. Now, interestingly, the SRA, the Solicitors Regulatory Authority, doesn't stipulate that this does have to be a law degree or even a UK law degree. However, in reality, if someone isn't coming from a law background or a UK law background, it is very challenging to be able to study for and obviously pass those SQE assessments. So there are conversion courses available for people in those situations. We offer a graduate diploma in law, and we would always strongly recommend that someone goes down that route first of all. The next thing then is the SQE1 and the SQE2 assessments, obviously. Those parts are both required, but there can be some exemptions. So, particularly if someone is an internationally qualified lawyer, they might find that they are actually able to get an exemption from the SQE2 assessment. And so they would just need to take the SQE1. But I'll be going over the content of what's involved in those in a moment. So the other things that are required as well is the standard meeting of suitability requirements, so disclosure of offences, hearings, and issues with criminal or financial conduct. And then also 2 years of qualifying work experience is required. And these four things don't actually have to come in an order. So that's the quite one thing that is quite good about the SQE is it's quite a flexible route, because it could be that someone has gained some work experience that's relevant and then goes on to study for the SQE, or vice versa really. But we'll touch on those in more detail shortly. So then, the SQE1 assessment, what's involved in those then? So this is all focused, the SQE1 is all focused on testing functioning legal knowledge. So there are 360 multiple choice questions that you would be asked and required to answer over 2 exams. And these cover 13 different areas of law. Now, currently, you are able to sit these, you have to sit them at a Pearson VUE test centre, but there are locations worldwide for the SQE1 assessment, and you can check on the SRA's website for where your nearest test centre might be. Assessments for SQE1 are twice a year currently, so it's normally in January and July time that you would be able to book onto and take those assessments. And the current fee price for that from the SRA is £1,934. So as I've said, the SQE1 is all based on multiple choice questions. So 360 of them, and they're what's known as single best answer questions. So you'd actually have quite a lengthy question. It's normally, several lines long of a couple of sentences around a sort of a legal scenario, situation. And there's five possible options, and they're all very plausible. So there isn't generally one that's like a funny, comical answer. They're all genuinely five plausible answers, and you need to pick that single best answer. Due to the volume of them, it does equate to about 1 minute and 40 seconds that you would have to answer each one. So obviously that's quite intense, and it's quite a lot to be able to read all that information and select that answer within that time period. Um, so it examined over 10 hours in total then, which is split into four sessions over 2 days. So essentially you'd have like a 2.5 hour exam one day with a lunch break, and then another 2.5 hour exam, and then the same again on another day as well. Um, Alex, I don't know if you want to add anything to here. What was your experience of actually sitting the SQE1 assessment like?
Long. It's very long, so get ready for that. It's definitely testing you. Yes, 2.5 hours. Time flies while you are sitting the exam, simply because questions are very long, or they seem very long. So you need to practice very quick apprehension of what you are being asked to do. There might be a couple of different practice areas, or so-called modules, that will be included in a single question. And yes, all the answers are plausible. So that's why it's the best. It's not the correct answer. So that's a difference. And of course, you need to do as many MCQs as you can to get to prepare for yourself. It's a functioning legal knowledge. So of course, you are being asked, and that's what the SRA keeps saying. We ask you to know the principles and to present to us you understand principles by answering those questions correctly. Just to mention, yes, these are 2 days, but it's not Monday, Tuesday. It's usually FLK1. So the first part of SQE1 is in the first week, and the FLK2 will be in the following week. So sometimes it might be Friday, Monday, or sometimes, like in my case, I believe my first, so FLK1 was on Tuesday the first week, and the FLK2 was on Thursday the following week. So in between, it actually worked for me the way I booked it, because I could give myself a few more days with a criminal procedure.
Mhm.
So that's what I had to so yeah, it just worked for me. So keep that in mind. I do understand, Nicola, probably you might know a bit more because you stay on top of it. The SRA keeps improving, of course, the process of booking everything, but in the end I know that it was possible to just book it on 2 different days.
Mm.
So it was possible for you to choose the first and the second part of the exam. Right now, there are some suggested dates. I don't know how flexible the SRA on the system is with that and you making changes. But for me, it worked, that I gave myself this kind of breathing space in between them. And also then to switch to FLK2, because completely different modules are being tested. So functioning legal knowledge is from different practice areas.
Yeah, that's a great point. Thanks, Alex. Okay, let's move on to SQE2 then and give an overview of that. So SQE2 then is actually focused on legal skills. So this is testing on oral and written legal skills, and it's actually 6 skills over 5 practice areas. So less practice areas than there is for SQE1. The 5 practice areas here are business, dispute resolution, property, criminal, and wills. And then you'll see those legal skills listed there as well. So you'll be tested in advocacy, case and matter analysis, client interview and attendance notes, and legal analysis, and then legal drafting, research, writing. And as I've mentioned, it may be that you have an exemption from SQE2. So if you're actually qualified overseas, it may be you have an exemption from this part because what you've already demonstrated, where you are is actually these legal skills still. So you may find that you do have that exemption. Now, with the SQE2 assessment, The written part of the assessment can still be sat at those different test centres worldwide. However, currently the oral assessment can only be studied in Cardiff, Manchester, London, and Birmingham. So this is where unfortunately there are some restrictions, and it does mean it does add some sort of complexities really in terms of booking into somewhere and being able to travel, and obviously additional costs involved in that. The actual SQE2 assessment fees are currently £2,974. Alex, anything else to add to here? And how was your experience of this?
So SQE2 is the confusing one. As always, no one knows how it looks like because it's very difficult to explain how it's organized. So this exam takes 5 days in total. So you've got 2 days of oral exams. So yes, you can only take them in the UK. So you need to be here in person, simply because especially advocacy is in front of the judge. So it will be difficult for the assessor to just move all around the world and just assess everyone. So yes, the oral exams take 2 days, and then there are 3 days of written exams. Similar to FLK 1 and 2, mostly. So the first day, there will be certain practice areas, usually FLK 1, then second day, FLK 2, more or less. And keep in mind, the third day is fully focuses on a business practice. And that's something to realize, because people are then surprised how business practice heavy this exam is. But that also shows, and I think as we move with this event, with this meeting, you'll see this kind of like business awareness side of things, because we also had a couple of questions like getting, I think, job position securing. Right, Nicola? There were a couple of inquiries about that and questions. Yeah, so SQE and the whole idea behind this is just understanding, not only being, and I think it helps and actually helped me with my preparation. It's also it's a very practical exam. So you don't have to memorize, you need to understand, and you need to understand for your clients. So that's why you've got best answers in SQE1 as well, because it's what is the best answer in this situation. So what is your client objective? And usually those questions will be very, very tricky about that. They will just add something just for you to quickly assess. Okay, but that's why it's the best answer, because that's my client's objective here. So yeah, the assessments. And the only thing I would add here really is please again go to the SRE website and just check everything that they tell you they want from you for that exam, like competency, what they're actually assessing. It really helps you understand this exam and the formula of this exam.
Brilliant. Thanks, Alex. Okay, so just to move on then, so obviously that was the SQE 1 and 2 assessments that we've talked through. But basically, in order to be able to sit and take those assessments, then you need really to be able to have a course, to be able to work through to help you to be able to prepare for them. So I'm just going to explain about what we offer here. So we offer the individual standalone SQE1 and SQE2 preparation courses, and then we also offer a master's, an LLM in legal practice, which includes those two preparation courses as part of its modules, alongside a choice of two transitional optional modules, and a legal research project as well. So as I've mentioned, we have got some more webinars coming up where we'll talk much more in depth about the actual content and delivery. But essentially, you can see a bit of an overview here of what's involved in each of those courses. So each program varies in terms of the weekly time commitments, because we offer both full-time and part-time options for studying, ranging for the full-time course of recommended study hours of 30 to 35 hours. So it really is very full time. We then have a mid-range length course, which is more like 15 to 20 hours of study time per week, and then one that's like 8 to 10 hours as well. So we've got different options that you can select there so that it best fits with your own situation. But the vast majority of the learning is independent or on-demand learning, where you can study it from wherever you are in the world, as long as you sort of keep to the overall timetable of the course. Um, the majority of the course, uh, uh, the parts that are delivered live and group sessions, they're always recorded, so you can attend. If you're not able to attend at that time, you can access the recording still at a later date. Um, Alongside attending those surgeries and town hall sessions, which are essentially sort of like seminar sessions. You would also have a personal supervisor allocated to you as well. These are all subject matter experts or experts practitioners that will help to guide you through those sessions. You also have what's called we call an SQE ready review as well with your supervisor, so they will help you to work out whether you're quite ready to take that next SQE assessment that's lined up for when the preparation course is finished, or if you might be better off just hanging on and just giving yourself a little bit more revision time, and then moving on to the next ones. Just something to add here as well. The cost for the courses for international students is exactly the same as UK-based students as well, which I'll come through to the costings later. The only thing that's slightly different is that as part of the course, we provide, alongside the online learning platform, you also get access to both a digital manual but also a hard copy manual, and there would just be a cost for the postage of sending that manual to you if you wanted to have that still. So other than that, everyone's all sort of incorporated together and treated the same that way as well. Um, Alex, do you want to talk a bit about how you managed to kind of fit in your studying? I know you said you took the hard route really of taking the full-time study whilst working full-time, which we would normally very much strongly advise against. But somehow you did manage to fit it in. How did you do that?
My day usually, it will be a very honest answer. So I usually started very early, 7 a.m., let's say, a bit of studying, work, so 9 to 5, and then after 5, maybe a little break, maybe a dinner, and then for a few hours again till I would say 1 a.m.
Wow.
So, so yes, maybe not every day, and sometimes I had the day off, but yeah, we can count those days off. I don't know, maybe 5, 6. So yeah, it was definitely a difficult time. I must admit, it was a difficult time. It's just I really wanted to just do it. I know myself, and that's something you need to discuss with yourself. Okay, how do you? Is it possible for you? So under some people are very good performers. So the way they perform usually is best when they are stressed. Some people just can't do it, and it's a huge stress. Keep that in mind. Even booking the exams, it causes a lot of anxiety, a lot. Because you think like, oh, maybe something will happen, or sometimes it's not possible for you to book it, and you're already, on the schedule, and you just want to be done with it. And then, of course, well, the preparation takes time, as I mentioned. Even MCQs, you see it here on the slide. Nicola just puts, you see how many questions college provides. And that's because it's part of it. You need to, it's not only studying, going through manuals, and there are also additional tasks. I don't know if you've added it to the slide, but there are so many different activities you can do on the system. So it takes time. Of course, you will have the recordings, the surgeries, etc. But with work, it takes time as a marathon. So I agree with you. It's not for everyone. You just need to ask yourself, is it possible? Because do you really want to struggle just because you decided to put this kind of, deadline just for
Mm.
yourself? Because in the end, you will benefit out of those qualifications, whether it will be next month or it will be in a year time.
Yeah.
So I would say just give yourself some time, be honest with yourself. If you decide, yeah, I can do it full time, you will start maybe then. Just check how the course looks like because it's a lot. And it's a lot of studying. It's a lot of doing those tests. I just assume some of you here with us today work or you've got other commitments. Keep in mind, life is also there. That's something I need to always remind myself that there's also this part. Um, but yes, and definitely, I must admit, and I'm being completely honest about that, the fact that there's calendar provided, that's something that I needed because I can sit and do things, but because there is plan in place that was provided throughout the course, that was really helpful because I knew, okay, today I need to do this chapter, that chapter. Okay, I'm moving back to criminal liability suddenly from properties, so that's helpful. But yeah, it was yeah, a very interesting time.
Thanks, Alex. Yeah, and we would sort of reiterate that just in of what you said of we're always very keen to give potential students as much information as possible about the reality of the level of study you would need to put in towards an SQE preparation course to then, get you ready to take that SQE assessment. Always happy to answer questions about that, just to help you to select the most appropriate course for you, really. Um, okay, great. So let's move on then to qualifying work experience. And I know we had a lot of questions about this from people when they registered for the event. Alex, are you okay to kind of talk through your experience of this?
Hmm. Yes, of course. There are so many questions I receive myself, even on Instagram or other socials, because it seems like everyone is confused. So the qualifying work experience, according to the SRA, it's experience while you are involved in legal activities. And that's very important. It will sound very legal right now. However, you need to understand what legal activities are. Okay. When you go, or you will even Google to the SRA website, you will see that it means, so we in the UK, there are two different types of legal services or legal activities. There are reserved and non-reserved legal activities. So let's say any kind of advice or representation of any kind, but in relation to proceedings. So let's say it might be volunteering for the Citizen Advice Office, okay, because advice is part of it. Or it might be some kind of law clinic that is very common in the UK for the university to have those, and for students to be supervised by staff, university staff, and providing some kind of advice, etc. That's qualifying work experience. Sadly, having experience non-related to legal activities is not a qualifying work experience according to the SRA. However, I really suggest contacting the SRA directly, always. Of course, COPE is the first if you decide to go ahead with the course, etc. Because you always, right, at COPE, Nicola, you always stay in touch and you communicate with the SRA, Kaplan, etc. However, it's always just pick up the phone and just give even the SRA a call. They are very helpful there. Just to always on an individual basis, because when we say legal activities, it might be, especially when you've got big law firms, and some of you maybe you're involved with that, risk assessments. So you might deal with, let's say, AML checks, so the anti-money laundering, or according to the SRA, actually, that's not clear whether they believe that's a qualifying work experience, but it should be, probably, most likely. So it's always good to just check with them, just give them a call here. What's very important here, and it's here on the slides, that you need to do it for at least 2 years in up to 4 different organizations, and very important to add here, full time. 2 years full time. So keep that in mind. Once you register, there will be a special MySRA account. You need to make an application for recognition. So you'll put through the times when you provided this qualifying, well, when you've gone through this qualifying work experience, or you provided your services, or you work for someone, and there will be a special part of the application where you just put through what does it mean in years, weeks, and days, because the system calculates, is it 2 years full time? And by full time, from what I remember, it's 35. I think they calculate 35 hours per week, but please just check that. So as far as you work full time, or you provide, it might be volunteering as well. That's a qualifying work experience. Then your application is being sent to the person approving that. There are only two options, and especially for lawyers. So, of course, if you are qualified already abroad, you've got a qualifying work experience, you are exempt. You don't have to submit that. You need to just ask for the exemption. So, you request an exemption. And the SRA will just approve it. Of course, they need to approve every single thing on the system. However, if you are not qualified, but you've got vast experience, you've been working for years, okay, even as a student, it might be part-time, and you will have actually 2 years of full-time qualifying work experience. Keep in mind that there's one tiny thing. It must be still approved by someone who is a solicitor or a COLP. Yeah, the same name. So there's someone who is responsible for the compliance of legal services within all legal services within the practice. So I've been approached by a couple of people. They had issues with someone actually approving the work. However, I've heard that there are ways, or there are solicitors who are willing to go through records, etc. The SRA doesn't, they don't have issues with that, of course, because everything is being documented. However, of course, you have to put many hours to provide the record of what you've done, because if it was your supervising solicitor, they would know more or less, and they just approve it. So that's very important here. So as we said, compliance officer, and what they approve is, again, we refer to the SRA solicitor competencies. When you go Google it on the SRA website, everything is there. So that's why qualifying work experience is legal services related, because there are those certain things that the SRA wants the person who approves it. They want them to check it, that this person not only will pass the exams, but this person actually, okay, 2 years, it's something. They've already got this full-time experience. So then when they are being provided with a license, of course, we've got the certain public duties as well. So the level of competence is in place.
Great, thanks, Alex. Okay, let's move on then to just a few other areas for consideration, really. Alex, are you okay to kind of touch on some of these as well?
Yes. Yes, of course. With English requirements, so again, if you are fully abroad, you haven't finished, you haven't graduated in the UK, of course, you will have to provide IELTS. So one of the exams, you need to check your local centers. It is required, you need to submit that. There are two separate accounts. So there is an SQE account that you'll have to create as an SQE candidate with the SRA. And keep in mind, there is a separate My SRA account. That's something that you create initially for, let's say, approval of the qualifying work experience. But this account will stay with you as a solicitor. So you'll have the same number. So there are certain things you need to provide to the SRA, including IELTS certificates, visa and travel. Nicola, you mentioned COLB is fully online. You don't have to travel there. Yes, SQE too, but I think you can do that. Probably you would know more about the immigration side of things.
Yeah, exactly. But obviously, it's just something else to bear in mind, isn't it, in terms of your preparations and being able to travel over and to factor in, the time to obviously to do that and the additional costs involved as well. And then when obviously you're moving on to looking for employment in the UK, then as well, the requirement to look for an employer that might sponsor you if that's what you need for moving over here.
But that's the next step. But for the SQE itself, well, you don't require that unless, of course, there are some limitations.
Yeah.
Ideally, always check, okay, what kinds of immigration you have here in the UK. And as we mentioned, oral exams, so the SQE 2 parts, 2 days, whether you need any kind of visa, etc., just to be in the UK to take those exams. Um, Conversion course, again, another thing that you need to before the admission. So let's say SQE is behind you, you've already passed it. And then there are certain requirements that you need to submit. So in the meantime, even while taking the exams for me, I decided to leave everything after the exams, of course, also because of my schedule and the fact that I was working and studying. You need to provide your diploma. Your diploma is being then verified. It takes some time. If it's a diploma which is not obtained in the UK, it might take even up to 180 days for it to be approved. So that's why I mentioned sometimes maybe just do it while still taking your exams because you don't have to wait. With the UK, usually is it, but keep in mind, even UK degrees, they need to be verified. So everyone goes through this one. It's just the time limit is a bit different for international students. So international diplomas. There is a small fee there for it's like the disclosures. I don't really remember, but I would say it was £20 maybe for the external provider to just confirm that the diploma is in place. And the timings, yes, that's very important. Important. So as I mentioned, well, you really need to think, why do I want this degree? Maybe, oh, sorry, what do I want my license? Is it that I've already got the job or maybe a new offer and they said, but you need to start next month and we want your license already in place. So of course, please check, okay, again, SRA website, as I said, especially if you've got degree abroad, because that's a big one. It might take yes, it's a long time because it's 6 months even for them to just confirm your diploma. And keep in mind that there are different, so you've got a couple of steps as part of your admission process. So even though you passed your SQE, that's one of the steps that will be just ticked on the system as complete. And then, of course, you've got diploma, you've got disclosures, and QWE. You can't do the next one before first completing the previous one. So that is very important. So it might take you months to do it. So it's good to just create a MySRA account. Once you decide, yeah, I'm going ahead, I'm doing the SQE, create MySRA account, just look around. Okay, what do they want from me? Okay, what is required? Because maybe some of the things like diploma, I just assume many of you might have already in place. Just go through the disclosure, just add it. So they will just have it for the future because you don't know, maybe it will take up to 6 months for them to confirm it. So it's a very practical thing just to plan ahead.
Thanks, Alex. And it's really great you've been able to point out that because I know before I'd spoken to you, I hadn't realised it could potentially take the SRA so long to sign off and approve some of those aspects there. So really valid point of just try and get ahead and get those things prepared for. So I'm just going to quickly run over some sort of costings and data, then we'll hopefully we'll come to all of your questions. So I'll send this information out to you, but just a quick overview of our courses and costs then. So for the conversion course that I mentioned, if someone doesn't have a law degree or a UK law degree, then we offer the graduate diploma in law, which can be studied over 20 weeks full-time or 40 weeks part-time. That costs £3,950. And then the SQE1 preparation course, which is that first step, is £2,200. And again, we've got options there to study over 13 weeks, 20 and 40, and then likewise again with the SQE2 course as well. And then if someone wanted to gain a master's, the LLM in legal practice, that also includes the SQE1 and 2 preparation course, and that's a cost of £7,245. This is just for the course fees, so you do always have those fees through the SRA as well, for the actual SQE assessments to consider on top of that as well. But as I say, I'll send you out further information about this as well. So let's come to some of your questions there. I know lots have come through, and thank you for your patience. I'm going to try and stop sharing and have a look at the questions that have come through. Okay, let's see if there's anything we haven't covered already. Okay, so someone's asking about if they've studied for the LPC, which is the route that was kind of in place before the SQE came in. If you complete LPC looking for a training contract, is it necessary to do the SQE exams before the training contract? So if you've started on the LPC route, it may still be that you can still continue down the original route that was there. I know some people though have decided to they haven't sort of followed that full process and instead are now looking at doing the SQE. And I believe you then actually get exemption from the SQE1 from the SQE knowledge part. But that's something we can perhaps come back to you on with. It's quite an unusual situation to come to it out. So we can come back to you on that and email you with further information.
Well, I would just add here that the reality is, so I don't know what are your plans or ambitions, but if you are targeting any kind of commercial practices, so the big law firms or even mid-sized law firms, but the commercial, they might ask you to do the SQE anyway. So that's the reality. It's really individual. You need to have a plan in place and just think, okay, I want to work here or there. Okay, how they look at it. Find them on LinkedIn, just ask. HR is always there. So the recruitment teams, they are more than happy to just answer your questions. And I would say just be very strategic about it because it really depends here.
Yeah, that's a good point. So a lot have already moved over wholly to SQE and now want all of
Yes.
their trainees to be coming through and taking that
Yes.
same qualification. So yeah, that's a good point. So how do you balance student life and being full-time employed? So I think you mentioned you sort of
What
dedicated all
balance?
of your life to it. But obviously it is a big ask, isn't it,
It is.
to have taken the full-time study and working as well. Pretty intense
So
kind of period of time for you.
So yeah, there is one thing. Just recently, I was reading Forbes, and I love how one of the founders just said there that work-life balance. What does it mean if you want to, if you are that ambitious? No, 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 it's all in. So I would say if you want really, I don't know what what you mean by balance. It's very subjective thing. But if say you want to hang out with friends every night or even every week. Well, that's difficult. It's really difficult. You sacrifice this side and this part of your life, at least for some time. You just postpone it in a way. And I was lucky with my surrounding, my family members, my partner, and my friends, because we are very similar. So they were completely like, "Oh, when was the last time I saw you? Oh, 7 months ago. Okay, fine. Yeah, yeah. I didn't have time. How are you?" So yeah, but that's the thing. You need to think, is it for me? Because some people are very outgoing. They really love to be out there on a daily. Um, so that's difficult. So I would say this kind of balance, if that's what you mean, difficult, okay, with full time and full time. Because
Yeah.
so you need to think. So that's why I suggest, as Nicola said, just think about it and probably just go part-time. No
Yeah,
rush.
exactly. There's a number of different options there. As I said, we offer kind of two what we call part-time and an extended part-time um, uh, preparation course durations. so that people can really pick the ones that are most appropriate for their situation. Because if you are working full time and perhaps have caring responsibilities as well, you know, you need to be realistic about
Mm,
actually how much study time can you put towards this. But obviously once you've made that plan, then you can look at your own diary and plan out your time of when you will be doing those
yes.
studies, and making friends, family, employers aware of it as well. Um, Brilliant. So there's a question around the qualifying work experience. So yeah, so we
Mhm.
mentioned it's 2 years full time, but that can be the equivalent of. So if someone has worked, gained relevant work experience on a part-time basis, that's absolutely fine, but you just need to equate those hours. So when you go onto the SRA's website and you fill in their sort of table with the information there, you would need to show that you've covered the equivalent of 2 years full time in total. Um, okay, so in terms of the question about studying for an LLM and a conversion course, so our LLM in legal practice, it doesn't include a conversion course, but we have the separate GDL program. So the GDL conversion courses cost £3,950. You can study it over 20 weeks full time or 40 weeks part time. And then once you've achieved that, you can move on to the LLM in legal practice. Um, on the LLM, the very first module is the SQE1 preparation course. So you need to be really coming into it with that right level of kind of foundational legal knowledge already, to then be able to study effectively onto the preparation SQE1 preparation module. Brilliant. So let's have a look. If you do SQE and then wants to do QWE after, is that possible? Absolutely. So as I said at the start, the good thing about the SQE route to qualify is that there is that level of flexibility. So someone might decide to do the qualifications first and then gain qualifying work experience. Someone might do part-time, be working and also studying at the same time, and doing the two things alongside. Or someone might actually have been working in a firm and gaining actually relevant qualifying work experience, and then go, actually, now I do want to look at being qualified. So that is the good thing. There is that level of flexibility available there. Um, and can I do QW outside of the UK in a different jurisdiction? So we explained, yes, you can. There is just that complexity about having it signed off, like Alex was saying. You do need to have someone who's registered really with the SRA to be able to sign off that work experience. So that's the complexity there. But essentially, you can do so as long as it can be approved and signed off by someone.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's a question. Yeah, called platform.
Yeah, so how long access do you have on the platform? Um, so you actually have access for 10 months after the end of your course. So we do quite often have a situation where someone might be studying for a course that leads up to a particular assessment period, but actually they decide, I'm not going to take it at that next SQE assessment. I'm going to delay and take the one 6 months after, and that's absolutely fine. And you still have access for 10 months continued access onto the online learning platform. You can obviously still access the recordings of any sessions, and also you'd have your hard copy manual as well then.
And when do you provide the access, Nicola, before the course starts?
The access
Is
to the
there
course,
anything
say.
in advance? Yeah.
So we do have a pre-course study manual, which includes like four sections of the manual. So once someone is registered and has paid the deposit, ready to enroll onto our program, even if that's a few months before the course starts, you would still be issued with that, just so you can start having a look and a bit of revision at
Mhm.
that before the course starts.
Okay, perfect.
Um, can you do a training contract abroad?
Abroad? No. Sadly, not. Training contract is very specific. It's fully registered here. You must take it. There are certain reports that are being sent to the SRA on a regular basis. It's fully registered from the beginning with the SRA. So sadly, training contract as it is, or the name for training contract, you cannot. Qualifying work experience is different than training contract. However, if your training contract, I don't know whether in your jurisdiction, it's possible from the training contract then to fully qualify. As we mentioned, as a qualified lawyer, you'll be most likely, well, you will be definitely exempt from the QWE as a qualified lawyer. So this way, a training contract is a training contract here, unless, of course, we've got certain international law firms providing training contracts. That's a different thing because your office might be in Dubai, but training contract will be still registered here in the UK. So that's a different situation. If that's what you meant, then yes. But it means it's a law firm with UK law firm with offices also abroad. So that's how it works.
Great. And then there's a question from someone who's completing LLM, interested in joining SQE 1 and 2. So what do you need to do next? Enroll onto a SQE 1 preparation course, basically, is your first step. Start preparing, start studying towards the SQE 1, and then once you've taken and passed that assessment, you can go on to the SQE 2.
So you mentioned that you are an advocate. If it's a qualified position or you are a qualified lawyer this way, it means you'll be most likely exempt from the SQE 2 part, the exam. But of course, I would say just contact, right? One of the advisors from the college, because they'll just let them know, give them more details. So it will be easier to assess and answer this one.
Brilliant. Then some further questions about QWE. Yes, you can gain that experience, as we've said, from overseas. You just need to be able to get that signed off appropriately to prove it to the SRA. And there's a question around sort of career support. Essentially, we don't have a huge careers offering, which you may find with some other institutions. And what I would say, the reason for that is the fact that we are able to offer our courses at a lower cost because we don't have those additional bolt-on services that some may have. So we don't have that in particular, but what we do is regularly put on sessions like this where we might have solicitors from different law firms, for example, coming and sharing about their experiences to help educate people about those sorts of opportunities, and with partner firms that we have as well, we regularly share information about opportunities that they might have through our newsletter to our students, and through our LinkedIn pages as well. So do make sure that you join our LinkedIn, our main page, but we've also got an SQE information group as well, and we share updates from there from our partner firms who do have vacancies as well. Okay, what else has just come in?
Everyone is on fire in the chat. So if you're an advocate, and again, if it's a qualified lawyer, SQE 1, no. SQE 1 is knowledge. The SRA wants to know you've got knowledge of the UK, so England and Wales system. So the system here in England and Wales. So no, SQE 2, yes, because it's skills. So as a qualified lawyer, there's a strong presumption you've got legal skills in place. SQE 1, knowledge. So as you can imagine, well, you need that knowledge and to prove it because you've got knowledge from your jurisdiction, not from here. And again, SQE 1, just to clarify exemption, if you've done LPC, you'll be exempt most likely. So someone before asked, oh, I finished LPC, what's next? Well, most likely you will be exempt from the SQE 1. So there are certain applications you make, again, SQE account and MySRA account. SQE 1, you apply for the exemptions there, okay? Because it only refers to the SQE exams.
Yeah, brilliant. There's some question around funding, and if we offer a loan. The College of Legal Practice don't issue loans. If you're eligible for a loan, student loan, for example, with Student Finance England, then the LLM can be funded that way. But what you can do is pay for our courses in instalments, so you can spread the cost of the courses out that way. Um, Okay, further question about
LPC. So yes, SQE1 exemption most likely. If you were a qualified lawyer, SQE2 exemption. Okay, because you've got skills in place. But I think we've got a couple of those.
yeah, brilliant. And if I'm a newly state registered lawyer in a different jurisdiction, can I
Yeah,
be
so
exempt?
SQE.
So again, yes, you know, as long as you meet the requirements. And what I can do as well when I email everyone tomorrow will be I'll put a link onto there to the relevant SRA pages where you can check your own exemptions because obviously they have different exemptions from different countries as well. So you can
Mhm.
directly check that you meet their requirements.
Yeah. QW in-house. Yes, it's a legal work. It is legal work. Again, just a reminder, you need to be signed off. So you need to find someone. If it's abroad, you need to find someone. Okay, call or a solicitor who would just send you off.
Yeah, brilliant. There's a question about unsure about whether to sign up to LLM in legal practice or the individual SQE preparation courses. So I'll get Alex to explain her experience in a moment on that. But just to reiterate, I mean, an LLM is not a requirement. You don't need to have a master's degree, but some people do choose and want to go on to gain a full master's. They might also want to take those additional modules that form part of the masters as well alongside taking the SQE. And if you're eligible for Student Finance England, a lot of people do choose to take it due to that as well.
Mm.
If you're interested at all in the LLM, tomorrow evening at the same time, we actually have an LLM focused webinar, which if you go onto the events page of our website, you'll be able to register for. But Alex, you took an LLM. Can I ask
Mhm.
what was your main motivation and you know why did you go for LLM rather than the individual courses?
No, just to have another one. I decided, I wasn't busy enough. Yes, so what is the added value or the added value of the LLM? Well, you can say you've got master's degree. It means something in the UK. So you've got the master's degree to start with. If it's a very good grade, so if you let's say distinction, okay, you can just well basically say you've got it. But it's definitely the only difference because we touch upon the elements, but yet there is another events just very briefly. So there's SQE1 preparation that you start with. That's the first part of your masters as well. Then you move into so-called transactional modules. So a bit more about very practical tasks that you need to do every week. You meet with your supervisor, and it's like preparation to be a newly qualified lawyer in this kind of practice area. Most of them, because I think some of them are about soft skills, O-shaped lawyers, etc. But in general, it's more like a preparation. Okay, what's next after the SQE? Okay, so transactional modules, that's the second part of your masters. And then we move to the SQE preparation. So anything you've got from those, then they add up to the final award. Um, so as well as you go, like your SQE preparation is part of your masters. So for me, it was a very practical decision. Why not? Like 2 out of 3 already in place. In the meantime, I'll have a break anyway from my SQE exams. So I just decided let's do transactional modules. They were very interesting. Supervisors were amazing. So yeah, actually, especially now working in commercial litigation. So I remember also we had a multi-track because dispute resolution that is provided by the college. It focuses on multi-track. So these are like big, complex disputes. So that was really helpful. Actually, a couple of things that I learned from the supervisor, I use daily right now at work. So especially when you are new, I would say, oh, you just start and you really want to. So you are from a different jurisdiction and you really want to, well, you are taking those exams. I think transactional modules are a good idea. But of course, read more about that. And in the end, you'll get just another, certification. So why not?
Brilliant. Thanks, Alex. Um, Lovely. Thank you so much for your questions this evening. I hope we've managed to answer all of them. As I say, I will be aiming to get that email out to everyone tomorrow with a copy of the recording and the slides, but also links to anything else that I think might be relevant and might be able to help you as well. And we'd welcome you to join any of our further webinars as well, just so that we can spend a bit longer talking about
Hmm.
the full details of different courses as well. But do please come back to us as well with any further questions that you have. We're always happy to answer, because we know it's a complex situation, and lots of things to
Yes.
consider when taking this step.
Uh, Sorry, Nicola. There's one more question within the Q&A section. Uh,
I
I
think
live in
we've
UK.
answered
Have
it.
we covered this one?
Yeah, I think it was in the chat
Yes?
as
Okay.
well. So we've covered
Okay.
that
That's
one.
fine.
Yeah. Brilliant. All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining this evening. That's the end of the webinar. And as I say, we'll be in contact with you. Okay, so
Thank you
take
so
care. Have
much.
a good evening.
Good luck with everything.